Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for our first Wednesday's Music Administration Collaborative get-together. I'm Rick Ganelli, and happy to be one of your hosts this evening. We've got a great presentation for you. You'll meet Joe Clark and Kelly Klein in just a minute. But as we've talked to people around the country with all this stimulus money coming out, what we kind of noticed is that many of the directors or the arts teachers, they weren't aware that it even existed. If they knew it existed, they didn't know that they were even eligible to do it or to access it, or they didn't know about the resources or how to access it. So I think what you're going to hear tonight is going to be very timely, very, very important, and something that's going to be great for everybody to learn. So we'll get to them in a minute, but right now I'd like to introduce Mike Campice. Mike is our Managing Director of our Division of Education at Conn-Selmer, and he has some opening comments for you, Mike.
And good evening, everyone. Grateful to be here, and thank you to Joe Clark and Kelly for being here this evening with us. Just a quick update on our Division of Education and the Music Administration Collaborative. We've had some changes recently, and many of you who know Dr. Nola Jones, who's been with us for a while, she recently retired, actually, as of last Friday. And I'm excited to announce that Aaron Cole, who's been on our team for about 5 years now, is our new Director of Educational Programs, taking over that role for the Division of Education. Through these changes, as Nola has worked with Gary Markham and Rick in the past, we've newly appointed Mr. Rick Ganelli as our Director of the Music Administration Collaborative, and he'll be working with Gary Markham, who founded the Music Administration Collaborative almost 10 years ago as our Executive Director, to make sure that we continue these first Wednesdays for the foreseeable future. And we're also going to start building out other useful pieces of our music administration platform for those that are in the music administration position. So we're very excited about these changes. In addition, a lot of great resources are being built. And we also have our Conn-Selmer Institute Connect happening this summer, coming up in June. So be on the lookout for more details for that for your school districts. So with that, I'll turn it back to Rick Ganelli, again, our Director of Music Administration Outreach. So back to you, Rick, and thank you everyone for being here this evening.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Yeah, those of you who have never used Webinar Jam before, you probably have noticed very quickly it's unlike Zoom. You'll be able to see the presenters, but you won't be able to see each other, and they can't see you. But we have the chat option available, and we encourage you to go ahead and put your comments in there, and Joe and Kelly will be checking those out as we go to answer any of your questions. So I don't want to take up any more time. I would like to introduce Dr. Joe Clark. He is currently the Director of Performing and Visual Arts in the Spring Independent School District, just north of Houston. And he is joined by Kelly Klein, and Kelly is the Assistant Superintendent for Federal Funds. And they have been very successful in all those things I talked about earlier. They have been very successful in putting this program together, and you're going to hear a really great success story that hopefully you can replicate in your own district. So, Joe and Kelly, the stage is yours.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to Conn-Selmer for having us on and able to talk about this. I would like to heartfelt thanks out to all of Conn-Selmer, but I really want to thank all of you guys for being here. The reason we do this is to help you guys. So we have a gift for you. We're going to have a little bit of crazy good time tonight. Kelly has been extremely successful. She's the Assistant Superintendent of Federal and State Compliance and a great friend of mine. And we've presented this a couple times, and we have a lot of fun. We get a little crazy, so hang on tight, but we're going to have a lot of fun too at the same time. All right. So like Rick said, I'm the Director of Performing and Visual Arts. What he didn't tell you is that I am his successor. So you're going to hear me pick on probably Rick a little bit here too. So tonight, this is what we're going to do. We just have three main goals. We're going to tell you who we are. We're going to tell you our why, and then we're going to tell you how to get the money. We also have a toolkit that we're going to give to you at the end of basically a blueprint of what we've done in spring for some of these documents, and we're going to share those with you, and we're going to give you some gifts, and we're going to walk you through some steps too. All right, here we go. Kelly, you ready?
Ready.
She's ready. She's ready. Got thumbs up. All right, so here's the beginning. All right, now Rick said this is a great success story, but for any success story, I'm going to tell you this one is going to be a little bit sad in the beginning, and I promise you it's going to pick up. But I wanted to tell you really about the why. So back in 2010, 2011, I was a band director in Spring ISD. Mr. Ganelli was the fine arts director and just running on all cylinders. We traditionally had maybe one or two ensembles going to Midwest. In 2010, I did take an ensemble to Midwest in December, and it was fantastic. And almost literally on the way home from Midwest, the budget crisis hit. All third positions were cut in the district. I lost my job. So in the and I say lose my job. I was moved inside the district to another position. But even coming off of the stage at Midwest was one of the highlights of my career. But nothing would prepare me for like a budget crisis. So once the budget got cut, we reduced staff just like many districts do, and I lost my position. I was a middle school head band director. And I helped turn around another program. So it was a blessing in disguise. But in 2013, a new position for the fine arts director, Mr. Ganelli, came to Conn-Selmer at that time. And so I was very, very fortunate to get a position, and now I'm the fine arts director, as we said. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I'll be honest, and before Mr. Ganelli was Dr. Crane, who's currently the president of Midwest Clinic. So I had Dr. Crane. These are the footsteps I had to fill in for. I had Dr. Crane, then I had Rick Ganelli. And so when I say that I had a Ferrari that was on autopilot, it was a Ferrari. I mean, it was basically, it was running, and all I had to do was get in and drive the keys, and just keep the keys in the ignition. But basically, I didn't have a why. So for 2 years, I didn't have a why. I was blessed with this huge department and 175 staff members, and I loved all of my staff members, and I still do. But I didn't have a why. I wasn't solid on it. So in 2015, another staffing cut came through, and in June, we had to reduce 27 band directors and choir directors from the district, and I fully blame myself. It was another budget pullback, and I didn't have a clearly articulated why, and there was a budget crisis, but we had to pull back on some of those staffing positions that we had, and it was June. Let me emphasize that. Can you guys type June in the text so I know you're there? Yeah, it was June. So think about that. Many people were already still on their summer vacation, and we had to reduce by 27 staff members. Then following that, 2016 was still not a great year for budgets. We got reduced 5 years in a row at 50%. So overall, 50% down from 2013. And that was my wake-up call. I'm going to be honest with you. That was my wake-up call. And I promise you, the story gets better after this. So my why turned into, like, I gotta figure out what I'm doing. Like, I need to know what I'm doing, and I need to align my why. So I dug in. You're going to hear me mention some other districts here in a second that I really leaned on. But in 2017, we wrote a strategic plan. We conducted a needs assessment, and I knew that arts integration was going to be a part of our why. And so we embedded that into everything, because arts integration supports the arts program, but it also supports core content. And so we tied our why to the district's why. And I'm telling you, like, the floodgates open. So let me show you there in 2017 on the right-hand column. You'll see Title IV. I showed up to a meeting with this wonderful assistant superintendent with us, and she said, "Congratulations, Title IV, you have $30,000. And I hit the roof. Like, I had my needs assessment done that we're going to talk about. I had my strategic plan done. I knew everything I needed for there, and I was prepared. I asked the right questions. And Kelly, I hope I asked the right questions. Did I ask?
Well, you did. And I just want to interject here. You
Sure.
know, he's not giving himself enough credit. He knew the money was coming, and he was just waiting for it to drop into the application. So when I said, here's your money, he had already done his due diligence and researched. And so he knew it was coming, and he just knew that I was in the right position to say, yes, it's arrived. Let's get started.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. So yeah, the story is everything on the left-hand side of the column taught me how to get better at the right-hand side. So you see 2017, I knew the right questions to ask. One meeting I showed up, we had 30,000. The next meeting I showed up, I had 45,000. The next year, the money did come, and we had one-time allocation of $500,000 that we were able to pump into the programs because we had a plan. Title IV immediately increased because I showed exactly, I was able to show growth, and I was able to show kind of what we did with the money. So it went up to those numbers right there. And then after that, we even added a coordinator of arts integration to help us with our lift of arts integration. So a huge, huge success story. And you can see that as Title IV funds keep on climbing, we keep on adding and we keep on improving for arts integration, and it supports our arts programs. Okay, so that kind of builds up the why. Kelly, do you want to chime in anything else there?
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay, good. All right, now selfishly, we have this one here. I love this. So your background. So you got to know your background, and here I'm going to let you in a little of our stuff. So what are you spending your time on? So I'm going to dive just a little bit deep because the number one thing that I hear other fine arts directors. Now we've been successful, and I'm in my year. I started year 8 in this position, so I have other fine arts directors that have reached out and say, "How do you do that with Title IV?" And so the number one thing I hear with them is that they're not clear on their why. So what are you spending your time on? I got pictures of my daughter Darcy. We were at the park there, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But your why has to be, I have to wake you up in the middle of the night, and I have to ask you what your why is, and it should be the first thing out of your mouth. Like, I know that it's my teachers and my daughter. Everything I do is connected to my teachers and my daughter, so my calendar reflects it. So my question to you is, and I thank you guys for being here, but my question to you is, if I looked at your calendar right now, would I be able to tell what your why is? If I looked at your wall on your, like maybe in your office, maybe your battle plan, maybe your calendar, in your data, what are you working on, and is that aligned to your why? Have you been really articulate about what your why is and why you're doing what you're doing? I really love Clayton Christensen. He did write, he passed away recently, but he writes for Harvard Business. And his quote is, "A strategy, whether in companies or in life, is created through hundreds of everyday decisions about how you spend your time." So we all get caught in email. We all get caught in the weeds. But if you don't budget for those big chunks of time to really go after your why, I would say, and I would argue, that you're going to still be in that left-hand column where I was, and you're going to kind of not know exactly where your why is. You got to get this straight before we ever talk about the how. So follow large school districts. The first thing I did was I looked around at other school districts, and here's my plug for Dr. Nathan Street. And Elisa, if you want to drop that in the chat right there. This is a shameless plug. I did let Nathan know that I was going to put this in there, but Guilford County, North Carolina, is just an incredible fine arts program. And I just searched all over for him, and I just found it. And I called him up. He's doing incredible things with arts integration. He's doing incredible things with the Kennedy Center, with all of these things. And I learned from him. I called him and I bugged him on the phone for about, it was about 30 minutes or half an hour. But I learned so much in that one conversation, and then I just dove into everything else that he's read. I did the same thing with some of the fine arts programs in California, with Ohio, with Florida, Indiana. There's so many programs that we can steal from. So the other thing I want to touch on there is you don't have to have a leadership title to be a leader. And I think a lot of people wait for their time. I have a lot of assistant directors that say, you know what, I want to lead. I said, you can lead right where you are. The other thing here too, same slide. This is me. And this is my battle plan this is my office at the bottom there, and I have my calendar and everything. And so the last thing I'm going to say about the why, and then I'm going to go on because I just want to embarrass myself there. I did just up as Buddy the Elf this Christmas, and we did a bunch of things. But if you think about aligning your why to your district's why, I want to give you an analogy, and I like this a lot. The analogy would be that it's almost like showing up to a costume party without a costume, and you're dressed in a black tie. That's how odd it looks to like district personnel when you don't have your why aligned with theirs. So the next time if you show up to your principal, or you show up to anyone that you're trying to align your why with, think about showing up to a costume party and it's black tie, and you show up like me in that top corner in a costume. You need to make sure that your why is aligned with everybody else, or it's going to be just as embarrassing as me in that picture showing up with black tie over there too. All right, we're going on. All right, so the last few slides I have, and then we're going to get the real brains, and the real star is Kelly Klein, and she's here with us too. But the Title IV Part A uses that we did, and this worked with our Y and it worked with our needs assessment, which we'll talk about. But we, on the one time on the left-hand side, we did get money for arts integration, but for mellophones, high school drum lines, we replaced rifles, sabers for our color guard, marching band uniforms, choir robes, tuxes, UIL like contests for theater, sets and design, piano repairs, visual art kits and supplies. And then on the Title I side, you see that over there. These are all things that we got accomplished with federal funds. So district-wide piano accompaniment. We had never done this before, so it was above and beyond, and it was necessary. And so those are the keys, and so we found a way to do it. Transportation to contests. At the year that we started this, we had no money for transportation. We barely could make the minimum, and so we kept the minimum, and we added this on top, and it did not supplant, but it supplemented the budget that we already had in place. And so you're going to hear about supplement and supplant. So, and then Quaver for elementary campuses. We had a small curriculum that we were able to do for elementary music, but we were never able to dream as big as having a program like Quaver for our elementary, which is like an extra curriculum supports. And so we were able to get that with Kelly's support too, and Kelly's help and guidance. And she's going to chime in there too. Kelly, did you want to talk about that or anything? We're good.
No, I think we're fine. It'll probably come back. Some questions might come up, and we'll wait for those to come up.
Yeah, guys, and we're going to watch the chat too as we go, but we're going to go through these slides and then we'll hit some questions too. So here's a couple other slides that I love this one. The soft skills you need. You need to know your why and your vision. You need to have a seat at the table. The one thing I didn't have in 2013 is I didn't have a seat at the table. I did go back to school. I did learn. I got a doctorate at U of H in educational leadership. I knew, and I'm not saying everybody has to go back to get a doctorate to use Title IV funds, but I recognized the language people were saying around me. I knew the words, but I had no idea what it meant. I mean, I had to learn their acronyms. I had to learn their language, and I had to like supplement versus supplant. Like now I know exactly what it means, but I had no idea what it meant. So I had to learn that language. And don't worry, we're going to give you some things at the end of this that we're going to show you kind of the whole path that we went through. So hang on tight, and we're going to get there. So the other thing is you got to be willing to lose and laugh. Me and Kelly go back and forth. I'm telling you, like we look like friends on here, and we are friends. But Kelly has told me no more times than any person on this planet. So like Kelly, I mean, we're going to joke and we're going to laugh, and she is crazy. But she says, Joe, you can't do this. I was like, okay, but can I do this? And she says, no, you can't do that. And so I come back and she was, okay, maybe you can do it this way. So I put this in here. No is just the beginning of a beautiful conversation. And I want you to remember that. No is just the beginning of a beautiful conversation. And it's not no, it's how. And so it's just like the improv. Yes, and. It's the first rule of improv. It's yes, and. It's not no. The other thing, too, is care deeply whatever your boss cares about. So if you're on the campus, know that your principal is probably getting pounded right now for attendance and maybe failure reports. Like across the nation, that's what they're getting looked at for. And obviously student achievement. So if you go in there and say, listen, I have got to have 12 box strads in my band hall, you need to know that really he's going to say, okay, what is a box strad and what does it help me to do with attendance? How is I going to raise student achievement? But if you come in there and you say, hey, how can we help with attendance? Maybe if I let you talk at the next band concert, like, would that help you with attendance? Come in there and make sure that your whys are aligned. And this last one, I can't stress enough. Always be the most prepared person at the table. I can't tell you how many times I've walked in and Kelly, I don't know if Kelly remembers this, but the first Title Funds meeting we attended, we were sitting around a table and I had $30,000. And I don't know if Kelly's going to say this is true or not, but I had $30,000 given to the program. But I knew everyone else's requirements around the table better than they did. And so like I knew that what the technology stipulation was. I even knew probably more about Title I than everybody in the room except for Kelly. And so when I came back to the table the next time, my amount wasn't 30,000, it was 45,000. And it's grown every year because I'm always the most prepared person in the room. I want to be. So here are the hard facts.
And let me add to that. And so you'll see throughout the presentation, there's different thresholds for each section of Title IV. And Joe knows if some program leaves money on the table, he's going after it. And that's when I kind of have to light a fire under my other program directors, like, Joe's coming for you. So you need to spend this money, because he knows the percentages. So he gets more than what is the minimum. It's because his program is so strong, and he shows it through a needs assessment.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. And I want to go back to this too. Like, I do steal money left and right, hand over fist, and I make no bones about it. Like, there's a time of the year.
I didn't say steal.
I did. It's okay. This isn't being recorded, is it? No. Okay, good. Yeah. So I do steal money, but what I do immediately after that is I show how it impacts kids. And once you show how it impacts student achievement or how it impacts kids, and everyone sees that that's a viable tool, then the money comes out of the woodwork. And so I know exactly where we are on our allocation for technology. I know that we have to at least go 20% here, 20% here, not more than 15% here. I know those barriers to make sure that we watch. And so I know before I go to Kelly that if she's got, she doesn't have any room left in technology, I know I can't ask for technology because we can't do it. There's a guideline there. So here's the hard facts and the documents we're going to share with you and what we did. Supplement, not supplant. You can't replace federal funds with something that you've already existing had. So like if I had a field trip or something that I paid for last year, and then I want to use title funds for that, you can't. It's got to be above and beyond. You can go to another trip that supplements the original instruction, but you can't supplant it. That was back in 1965, back in FDR, I think. So the PVA strategic plan, that's Fine Arts Department. I did have a strategic plan, and my department knows about it. And I was able to, and you'll see the next bullet right there, ADA, which is attendance, discipline, and academics. And this is important. When I talked to my department, I even said, this is what we care about. We care about attendance, discipline, and student achievement. And I said it over and over, and I did just like this. I said attendance, discipline, and student achievement. Sometimes I said behavior. And I even, and this is a little anal, but I even made the people, I even said it with the same hand gestures. I said attendance, behavior, and student achievement, just because it looks weird, right? And I kid you not, I said it so many times that I just wanted everyone to be ingrained. So I had the oral and I had the visual of me doing this. And then I swear my boss talked to the board members, and my boss even said, PVA is about attendance, behavior, and student achievement. They even repeated the same sessions that we had. And so what we have is, like we talked about student attendance, behavior, and discipline over and over until we could do this. It was in our needs assessment, and our needs assessment was research-based. And so you're going to talk about, you'll see what a comprehensive needs assessment. And I'll be honest, I'm going to share with you the huge needs assessment that I did. And then working with Kelly, we're going to get a lot shorter. So don't get scared when you see behind. But I'm going to share the long one with you, and then I'll share with you the short one-pager that Kelly likes a lot better now too. All right, so that's a lot of talking. I'm going to hand it over to the real star of the show. She's going to walk us through really what she looks for all programs, and then we'll go. All right, Kelly, it's all you.
Good. Well, thank you, Joe. I've been told that I can't touch the keyboard, so Joe will be switching the slides for me, so I'll give him the cue. I do want to make one comment before I get into what ESSA means. Joe mentioned attendance, ADA, which is average daily attendance. In the state that we are in, I'm not quite sure if this is a federal part, but 55% of our budget is based on students coming to school, right? That's how our teachers get paid. That's how our programs run. That's your general fund. So think about every time that child comes to school, the state is paying you or paying the district to support that school with resources, or that district with resources. So Joe has found a way to leverage his program to encourage kids to come to school. Now, in our pandemic, can you imagine having a robust PVA program? He didn't miss a step. It is as good or even stronger, right, as it was before. So, my background is school health way back when. I can't imagine doing PE virtually, but I can't imagine doing PVA virtually. So thank you for that, Joe.
Absolutely.
So I'm the money lady. And so Joe says, don't talk about all the history of it, but I love the history part of it. ESSA basically is an acronym, and it's the Every Student Succeeds Act. And basically before Obama left office in December 2015, he enacted this. And this replaced the No Child Left Behind Act, which you probably heard about, and before that, Improving American Schools. So every time there's a new administration that comes in, they come in and they usually change up the Education Act. And it's just an amendment to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Now, as far as the next slide, Joe, I do want to talk about, before we go to Title IV, in ESSA, there's 4 title programs. There's Title I, which most schools get Title I, and that's based on your students that are economically disadvantaged, right? And so that there's a lot of federal dollars for Title I. Then there's Title II, which are measures to increase and recruit and retain teachers and principals. Then there's Title III, there's Part A, which is your English language acquisition, which used to be called the limited English proficiency, and also there's immigrant funds. And then here comes Title IV, Part A. And basically, Title I, Title II, Title III are very prescriptive on what you can do. And everyone was thinking, but these kids, we need more money and more loose parameters. And here was birthed Title IV. And of course, Joe knew it was coming because every 2 years, an odd year, legislation meets, and he knew it was coming. So when it fell into my lap, okay, we'll just add it to the federal program. So I supervise title programs, Title I, II, III, IV. And actually, our district has received 31 new grants this year since we've gone into the pandemic. There's ESSER, there's all different ones. But when you hear a title program, it means it's an entitlement. It's non-competitive. You don't compete for it. The state's given the money, and then it applies for the money on behalf of the LEA or the district, and then the district has to apply for the money for that. But it's, like I said, it's money sitting there. It's not competitive. No one's reading over an application, and you're not competing with a neighboring district. So Title IV is really called the Student Support and Academic Enrichment. It's a grant, right? It's an entitlement. So it's money given to districts. So Title I, II, III, and IV. But this one specifically is for well-rounded education. And we'll look at what that means because it's very, very broad. And you can really start to think outside of the box, which is the title of this presentation. However, I always tell Joe, don't be creative with federal money, right? He's very good at with his programming, but when you use the word creative in federal programs, I get nervous. So yeah, we may start off with no, but then we find a way to come together. And when I say no, it's no with, well, here's a solution that we can work on. Or he might have some other ideas. He never leaves without what he may come in with what he wants, but with something in his toolkit.
And I don't tell everybody I say like creative. Like I don't use the word improv when I turn in my Title IV funds. Like I might do it with Kelly, but I don't say that anywhere else. I always have everything worked out before I go meet with her.
that was my disclaimer for this because I know we're being paid.
Yeah.
So there's really 3 big buckets of money for Title IV. There's the first one, which is well-rounded education, as I said, and we'll talk about the thresholds for each. The second part is to improve school conditions, and that's where the mental health pieces come in, and especially during the pandemic. And you may have, in many states you've heard of shootings in schools and the mental toll that takes on kids. So the federal government has pumped more money in the mental health piece. So you'll see that later on. And the last part is the use of technology. So those are the 3 main buckets. There's a 4th little one that I don't use, but I'll show you. But those are the 3 main areas where you can use your money. Next slide. Good. So here's your LEA applications. So basically, if you receive Title I dollars, so it's based on your Title I allocation the year before, right? And Title I is based on your snapshots and your data keeping. Basically, your money is based on the prior year's Title I allocation. If you don't receive Title I in your district, chances are you're not going to be receiving any Title IV funds. And usually there's a minimum of $10,000 if you receive any kind of Title I money. But if you receive over $30,000 in Title I, which we do, then we have to do a needs assessment. And that wasn't something new. Joe's been doing needs assessments forever, but it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I use his many times as a sample when the other programs want to do needs assessments, because that needs assessment drives the money, right? If you can't show a need for it, then why are you purchasing it, right? If a school has low math scores, why are they purchasing a writing curriculum? It doesn't make any sense. If the writing scores are low, then purchasing writing curriculum makes sense, right? So there has to be a connection between the need, right, and the funding source. So I talked to you before about the thresholds. So in the law, it basically says for well-rounded education, and I guess I put WRE there, at least 20%, okay, must be used for well-rounded education. 20% must be used for safe and healthy schools, right? And the rest can be, and a portion can be used for effective technology. So in our district, we meet that 20% threshold for each, right? And here's where we start to do some, as Joe calls my negotiations with them, right? It's actually, Joe gets about 45%, and then school health gets about 45%, and we split school health into school health and mental health. And the last part is digital literacy, and they get a little bit. All it says is some portion. Right now, as long as I put those buckets in there, if my 45% that I put in safe and healthy schools don't spend their money, then I could do an amendment and move that money over into well-rounded. But once they know that Joe's on their tail, that they end up spending that money very quickly.
And I'll tell you what, Kelly, we're doing pretty good on time, so I'm going to answer this question. Steve has a question. He was talking about in the chat. He says, "Hi, Kelly. Does your district distribution Title IV Part A funds, does it go towards school site budgets? What percentage of Title IV do you keep at the district level?" So talking about the district and the local level. And I would say too, and I'll let Kelly chime in too, for me, like I work hand in hand with our local campus level. All of my money goes towards local. So when you're talking about 45% goes towards us, like all of that goes to a campus. So if you're on a campus, I would suggest having your why, your needs assessment, and we'll show you how to do a quick one-pager type of needs assessment, but have that needs assessment and show the person above you what you could use. If you don't have a fine arts director, then show your principal. If you don't have a principal, you have a principal, then maybe that principal can work with the federal funds person above, that somebody is helping out watch those funds. So it's just getting a seat at that table. Kelly, how did I do? Is that okay? Or
that was pretty good, but real okay. So when the money comes down, it goes to the district level. So Joe gets the money in his pot. But then what Joe does, Joe's very equitable. He makes sure he takes care of all of his campuses. So that's a conversation that you would have to have with whoever's getting that money. So if it's a director of fine arts, then hopefully they're having a good conversation with the people on, the programs on the campus that the money's actually funneling down. And that's a great thing. Now, Joe did take some off the top to pay for a fine arts coordinator. So that he's able to coordinate all these activities. But the idea is, for me, when I get audited, I have to show the closer the money is to the child, the easier it is to show school improvement, right? So all of this money does funnel down right to the students. And he will help schools. Say if one school needs extra, he'll help them. It's all about the needs. And one school might not need as much as another school does. Joe has a very intimate and personal relationship with all of his band directors and his art teachers. So he knows the need even before probably they do.
That's right. So Steve, that's a great question. The closer we can get that money to you at the campus level, if that's what you're talking about, absolutely the better for us, because it looks like we're using the money responsibly. And when you use the money responsibly, that's when you get more money in return.
Right. And actually, I can't see the chat, so I'm glad that you're monitoring it. But also, you have to make sure that you spend the money in a timely fashion, right? And so with these guys, I call it a heat map. And I haven't done it this year. I've been very lax with them because of just what we're going through with the pandemic. Every month I'd give them, okay, by December, you should have spent 60%, right? And by March, you should have spent 80%. And the problem is, if you don't spend your money until the end, that's almost like that's a trigger to be audited. And we have been audited before, right? And we've made mistakes before. And of course, at the beginning, you're going to make mistakes. And I'm okay with making a mistake. But once you make a mistake, you do corrective action plan. And you find a different funding source if we bought something that we shouldn't have. Because at the beginning, this was a learning experience for all of us, right? No one really knew what Title IV was. Everyone was interpreting it differently. And actually, it is up to interpretation. However, I think that between Joe and I and my other directors with other programs, we have a pretty strong interpretation. And now most times districts come to us to ask us, like, what have you done with this money? And how do you ensure that someone's monitoring it and that you're using it correctly? So those are the percentage, those are the thresholds. And as I said, as long as I have 20% in well-rounded for Joe and 20%, and I do part of it for my mental health and my school health, I'm great. And a little bit over there for effective use of technology, I'm great. But as I said, I do more like 45, 45, and 10.
That's perfect. Yeah, and I would say, Michael, I've got one question over there too, and then we're gonna go to the next slide. Michael Stone, yes, I'm a music supervisor, and can you fund positions for this too? And I answered you, Mike, yes, absolutely you can. It all depends on that needs assessment and if it's going as close as possible to kids. And as mine is an example, I have a coordinator for arts integration. And so he goes on the campus, he monitors the implementation of our arts integration plan, and he oversees that. Now he has a theater background, so he also helps with theater, but his primary goal, and if you looked at his calendar, you'll see a lot of arts integration on there as primary, but he also helps me with like theater contests. All right.
And it also depends on the application. So every LEA will have a different application to their state governance. And at one point, the application was very heavy and very cumbersome. Last year was very light, I guess, because of the pandemic. And at one point, you actually had to list the positions that were paid out of each funding source. And then the state would review, and I would go through negotiations with them. So it was like a safety net that if you're going down the wrong road, they would pull you back. But during that time when we asked for that arts integration person, we got it. And also with Title IV, we also have a mental health director that's funded out of that grant. And that's right. That's not in the top well-rounded, that would go under the school health. So absolutely. Everyone wants to know where the money is. This is what I do. And so I know where my money is in my state, but I want to show you where your money is in your state. So because there's 51 people and I don't know where they are, Joe, pick a state, any state.
I'm going to start with Colorado. I like Colorado. I just came back from a ski trip over there. So if you're from Colorado, thank you. I had a blast. I got my 5-year-old on skis for the first time. Was not successful, but went good. Okay, I digress.
No, hold on. So in the PowerPoint presentation, which is in their toolbox, right? This link is on there. All he did was press the link, and it took him to the U.S. Department of Education. And so now, and he's also going to put it in there. So we're choosing Colorado, and I'm doing Colorado. I'm not in Colorado, but I'm doing Colorado to show you that this is something that every state has. So he's going to choose Colorado, and here we go.
So Michael, Michael Stone. So if you're looking for how much money your district gets, this is exactly what you would do. So that's why I put that link in the chat for you guys too. So you can do this at home too. All right, here we go. Sorry, right. Colorado.
So we're doing Colorado, and let's see. So I am going to the state of Colorado, and okay, let's see here. And technology is my friend. Let's see if this works. It should take us to the Colorado. There it is, State Department of Education for Colorado. We're going to hit that link, Joe.
No problem. So you see we're still in the ed.gov. So now we're going to Colorado.
Right. And everyone, I'm sure every state has a different term. Well, whatever is a state governance, right? And then I would go to the search. And I think for this one, let's put in ESSA, ESSA allocation. And of course, we practiced earlier on, as you see it.
It did so, yeah.
Yeah, of course we had to practice. And then he's going to do a search. Okay, then we're going to look down. Oh, look at that. The first one, which is great because sometimes you kind of have to play with it and move around with each state. But he's going to press the ESSA applications. Now, we did talk. Now, Joe mentioned that at first I gave him the very first year, 17-18, I gave him $30,000. Then I came back and gave him $45,000. Well, it's not me. It's what happens is that you first have almost like a pre-planning amount, and I'll show that, which comes out in April. And so really this should start coming out in April for 2021-22. And then if say you have 50 different LEAs in the state, and only 45 of them decided to apply for these funds, they take those 5 other districts who didn't apply for those funds, and they put it back in the pot and redistribute it. So that's how we went from $30,000 to $45,000. Because even though it's money and it's free money, It's not free money because when you receive federal dollars, there's a lot of stipulations. Like I have to do reports. We have to stay in compliance. We can be audited at any time. And some districts just choose not to accept the money. So we're going to look at this. Now we're in Colorado right now. Let's go to the top one. We're going to look at the revised final.
So final allocations. Okay.
So the first one came out so the first one would have come out in April. Then I would have received an application in May. And then about December, you saw December 8th would have been the final. Now, let's choose a district. Let's choose let's do number 3, Adams County. So the district is called Adams County. There you go. Remember, your allocation is based on your Title I allocation. So let's look at Title I. And can you go to Title I first?
Yep.
There it is. So that district inside the state of Colorado received $2.31031 million in Title I. Okay, and then what they would do, I would get it. I would take probably what the law says, 70% must go down to the campuses. I can keep 30% at the district level for some district level activities, but of course everything goes right straight down to the students in some way. Title II, Part A, which I told you was a teacher quality. Look there, they got 325. So I'd call my Title II person up, right? And that's really for professional development. So if you have a professional development department, those are great ways that we can develop our teachers to recruit them and retain them. Our Title III, look at that. Remember I told you, now that's called ELL. We call in our state ELA, which is English Language Acquisition. That is ELL, English Language Learners. And then, of course, you have your immigrant. Now, immigrant money doesn't come to a lot of districts, okay, because it's very difficult. You need to make sure that you code. And I also work in the PEIMS department. So coding is very, very important with these funds also. So for Title III, Part A, there's ELL and there's immigrant. So that goes to my director of multilingual. She gets that money, but then she sends it right down to the campuses based on need. One campus might have 50% of the student body are English language learners, and one campus might have 2%. Well, the need would go to the campus that has a higher percentage, right? You have to show need. Joe, did you want to say anything before we go to Title IV?
Nope. Show me the money. Show me the money. Let's do the money.
I'm looking at the zero. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, did we check the wrong one? That's Title IV. That's Title V. See, don't forget Title V. We're not talking about Title V. We're talking about Title IV, Part A. And also don't get confused. That's the money. And I will tell you, there's probably Title IV, Part B. I do Title I, Part C, which is migrant. I've seen Title I, Part 2, Subpart D. It's just, you can get really down into the weeds. So all we're talking about is Title IV, Part A, which is your student support and academic. Did we get Title I money? Yes, we did. There we go. There's our Title II. There's our Title IV money, $144,000. So I get that money. I put in the application. At least 20% must go to well-rounded. At least 20% must go to school health. And at least, a portion must go to my digital literacy. However, 45%, of course, I don't have my calculator. I do not have the math gene. But of course, then I would bring in my directors. And I would say, okay, last year you got 45%. You're getting 45% again, right? The money usually goes up every year. And then, of course, my mental health and my school health might say, well, you know what, I need 50% this year. And Joe's like, no, you're not getting any more money, right? And so then we kind of negotiate based on need, who needs it. And usually it's been pretty stagnant. It's been 45, because also people are being paid out of these budgets. So I need to make sure that they're healthy to support someone's paycheck. But that's Colorado. Let's choose another district just to, show them again how easy this is.
We got, this is Con Selmer. So out of Elkhart, let's do Indiana. Can we do Indiana?
Oh,
then
you tell me.
I see. Okay, let's do Indiana.
We'll do Indiana, and then we'll take questions because the rest of my stuff is just very self-explanatory.
And I want to show them the toolbox. I want to show them the toolkit that we got.
Yep. So let's do Indiana. And there it is.
So I'm going right here.
Yep.
I see one request too from North Carolina too. You need to call Dr. Street. He has figured it out. So I see that over there too. Okay. I apologize. Here we go. Indiana.
And so this time, Now, we could put an ESSA out, we could put ESSA in, but this time let's just put in, you know what, I don't want to deal with Title I, Title II, Title III, just show me the money, show me Title IV. And in some departments of education, they've actually split it out. So I can see that there it is right there, we could write to Title IV.
Because we did practice.
He can do a search.
It's coming.
It should be coming, maybe, okay. Oh, look at there's Title IV right there. Let's see what, and sometimes it's got to keep on clicking until you find the money.
You want to do this one?
Right. Yeah. We don't want to get into the application and all that. That's specific to that district.
Oh, and there's allocations. So you're gonna want to look for the word. Is it allocation PDF?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's preliminary. Remember, something comes out usually in April, right? They didn't put their final one on there. That's fine. They would have got that eventually. Okay, let's look at the top one. Okay, so we are in the state of Indiana. Adams Central Community Schools receives $54,000 in Title IV funds, and then they bring in they would bring in the directors. One would be now when we look now I bring in Joe under well-rounded, but well-rounded, and I know I probably shouldn't say this. Well-rounded doesn't mean it has to be fine arts. There's a lot of ways that well-rounded can be defined. And actually, all the definitions is in this resource. We're not going to have time to show this, but in this resource, what I did is I actually highlighted the areas for you. You guys can see this, right? They can see this, right, Joe? Yep. Right? In here is all the areas. You are going to show it?
Yep, done.
Okay. So this you want to go through this because this is what the USDE is put at. Now what happens is every state comes back and they have their own guidance on their interpretation of this, right? But because this is a national meeting today, we're going to follow this. But if you go to your state, you'll find your state guidance. And then what I do from this is I have my own federal and state programs guidance, and then we just dig a little bit deeper. So we can be more restrictive if we want to than what the state says. So Joe are you going to find that piece, Joe, or not?
Yep, I will. I'm sorry. I was answering a question. I had a great question. Wayne was talking about about funding positions. Another thing too I want to bring up too is I also do stipends to help teachers. So we have board approved stipends using Title IV funds to help with arts integration. So not only do I have an arts integrated coordinator, which is a position, Wayne had a great point. It's like, well, how sustainable is it to do it through Title IV? Title IV is never guaranteed, but I try to make sure that only 1/3-ish of my budget of my Title IV funds would ever go towards a position. And I try to just keep that cushion in there, but I also do stipends for people that help with arts integration, like performances or arts integration, any kind of demonstration of understanding.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a great point, Joe. He's completely right. To fund someone under title funds are not guaranteed from year to year. So, and also, if you do, what you need to do is find me in your district, because if they do fund someone out of a federal fund, they have to sign a job description that says, in light of this, basically, if these funds were to go away, your position would be eliminated, and then we'd of course absorb them someplace else, hopefully. But it's year to year, depending on the funded amount. And as I said, these title programs pop up all the time, and I'm hoping Title IV is here to stay for a while. But I've seen them come and go.
Yeah.
What he's showing you right now is this document right here. And it just kind of goes through the allowables and unallowables. But I do want you to go to page 6, Joe, at least to show them.
Everybody. Yep, I'm sorry. And I was going to tell everybody, I'm going to scroll, but you guys are about to get this here in a second. So you're going to get a link to this. I just want to, before everyone jumps in and it clogs up, I want to keep it just me in there. And then a second, I'll drop it in, or Elisa will drop it in the chat in a second. Don't do it yet. Let me find page 6, and we want to show you this page here. And look, Kelly, look at you. You're such a rock star. You made a note for everybody. You highlighted for everyone.
I made those notes. Wait, I didn't make those notes. I made those notes on the side. Oh, for crying out loud. I didn't want those notes to show up. Can we get rid of those notes?
Yes, I'll get rid of them.
Resolve them, yes. Thank you. I think I had a conversation with the group before that I am on the cusp of retirement. And if I could go back to the rotary phone that was black and not do technology, I would appreciate that, because Google Docs has been my nemesis, and I'm learning, but yet not interested. But, oh no, you took away all my stuff now.
You said to resolve them here, but it was highlighted. I'll fix it before it goes.
But anyways, the first one, I want you to highlight the first bullet. So there you go. So well-rounded.
Right here.
Basically, I'll read it. It says, improving access to foreign language instruction, arts, and music education. So which part of that do you think Joe Clark jumped on? Arts and music education. But down that whole column, it tells you all the different areas, right? Now, your district might have decided that for this section on well-rounded, they were going to go on bullet 3 and have more of a STEM project. Well, I can do STEAM too. They want to have a STEAM, right? That's why you need to make sure you go in there with the need. And when he came to the table, right, I guess there wasn't a chair. He brought his own chair, popped it up, and got us brought around the table. And that's what you have to. He camped out, and then brought his chair to the table. So as I said, there's well-rounded is very big. However, in our district, we have narrowed it down to a specific need. And we know that the students in our district, right, they need the arts. They thrive on the arts, and all ties back to student improvement. And we can show the data that those kids that are involved with after-school programs and in-school programs that are centered around the fine arts, the data shows that they do better in the core curriculum.
Yeah.
I also, as you go through this document, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, in this document too, you'll not on this page, but later on, it even says the words arts integration. And so I'm telling you, like, the easiest bucket is Title IV Part A, arts integration. And arts integration for us, what we do in spring is we specifically title K2 literacy and like the foundational skills, phonemic awareness, rhyming, alliteration. We have things that we target, but those supports come through things like above and beyond, like Quaver, and so that is huge for us. So we tie it very closely to student achievement, but we also tie it to arts education, because you have arts integration, and then I strongly believe you have to have a strong foundation of arts education first, and then on top is arts integration. So we build that in the strategic plan, and then everyone's like, oh, well, it's your plan. You have to have arts education first, then you have arts integration. So and that's what we do in our strategic plan.
Good. And one last part of this, could you go down to page, because everyone's like, what's allowable, what's not allowable. If you go to page 18, I'll do 18, 19, and 20, and I'm going to end my section. So in this guide, and it would have been highlighted if he would have kept those things. Oh, it is.
It's there.
Don't touch that now. There we go. So on page 18, go up a bit. Basically it says, oh, now
sorry, hang on. It's just a little lag. Hang on one second. This is why they say don't do your share screen.
On the bottom of page 18, it says allowable activities.
Yep, got it.
So there we go. So allowable activities. And if you keep on going down, I guess we just keep my cake line on there.
Yes.
Going down. Then it says activities to support well-rounded. Remember, well-rounded is huge, right? And then keep on going down. The actual example they gave, yeah. Keep going down a bit. Yeah, but keep going down more. They gave an example, and there it is. They use music and arts as an example of, remember, in well-rounded, have all of these different areas. In our district, we chose to use our well-rounded for arts integration. In this sample, they're showing how music and arts can be used in well-rounded. But as I said, there's a lot of people vying for that bucket, because that bucket isn't just for PVA. It could be used for many different things. But your needs assessment drives your programs. And as far as my other slides, hang on, Joe. As far as my other slides, they're just basically what we do in our district. And he can leave my email address. And if you find someone in your district that does the same thing as me, I can have a conversation with them. Once you get started, it's very easy. It's very prescriptive on what you can and cannot do with this money. And Joe and I have been working together for 5 years now. He started with no money, and now he is, we take our show on the road. And I think it's a pretty good thing.
Okay, and so I want to point out something really right here. And Kelly really this is like turnkey for you guys. So Elisa, if you want to go ahead and drop that, the toolkit in the chat for them, I think that's good. Or if you want to do that offer, if not, I can do it. But right here, you even see where it says Arts Ed Search. And that's kind of like one of the clearinghouses. If you're familiar with that, great. If not, you get familiar with that. That's where a lot of those research things that I found, like you'll see Otis Elementary right here. You'll see a lot of research that's already done of other programs that are now using Title IV funds and what they used it for in other states. So this is ours. And so you're more than welcome to use all of our information, but go there to the Arts Ed Search and you'll see Kelly's even highlighted exactly what you could do and use in your argument for when you're talking about Title IV Part A funds. And I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to take some questions and then we'll go from there. All right, let me find my...
Now that guide that he showed was the USDE guide. So anything in there is fair game. So that's not, and so from there, they drill it down to a state guide and then I drill it down to a district guide.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the time. I'm sure Rick's going crazy because it's 5 minutes. So do we even have time for questions?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, and so we have a couple questions over there too. It sounds like you're using Title I funds as well. Consider your connection to achieving Title I goals. Yes, our school's using Title I funds for arts integration. Our Title I is a little tricky, and I'll let Kelly chime in too just a couple of seconds. Unless the whole school, like if I had one campus that was the entire campus and arts integration was the primary reason for that entire campus to improve student achievement, you might be able to use Title I. I'm just going to say that there's so many other fish in that Title I pond that are people that are fishing. The Title IV pond is not crowded. The Title I pond is very crowded. So like if you got a pole and you only got time to fish for one fish, go to the Title IV. Title I is possible, but it's got so many restrictions. Kelly,
yeah, well, okay, so yeah, he could find a good argument to use. However, it really stipulates it's for core curriculum in Title I. So when you're looking at math, reading, writing, science, all the big main core curriculum is what they want you to concentrate on, and that's why the arts people are like, well, what about us? We know the data is there. Well, here comes the birth of Title IV. It's a lot more lenient and allows you a lot more flexibility with those funds. But Title I it's really hard to spend. It's because it's so prescriptive on what you can use it for.
Exactly. All right. So I think we're almost, I see David Vanderwalker. Oh my gosh. I've taken your books on vacation, Mr. Vanderwalker. Thank you very much please check out his books over there too. Shout out there. And if Dr. Nathan Street's in there, thank you for everything. And if you guys want to put it in the chat, I'll kick it back over to Rick. I'm going to double check the access because it doesn't matter how many times you check the access for folders. It says probably can't access, but you should be able to view the files. All right, Rick Ganelli, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Wow, Joe and Kelly, amazing information. And it felt like you were really having to rush through it, but it was still very clear and concise. And for those of you that enjoyed this and maybe want more, we've already talked, well, I've talked to Joe anyway. I don't know if he mentioned it to Kelly, but for our Consumer Institute Connect this June, it's going to be somewhere between the 14th, well, the whole Institute be around the 14th to the 17th. We don't know when our MAC sessions are going to be yet, but I'd like to ask Joe and Kelly to come back and maybe redo some of this. Either do it again or maybe take it even a deeper dive into it. So if you guys would like to join us again, we'll get more information out to everybody about that. I want to also invite you to the next First Wednesday, which is going to be March 3rd. And Dr. Tim Watsenheiser will be interviewing a special guest. I'm not going to give it away yet, but we want to share with you a statewide grassroots effort to train fine arts teachers to be good advocates. It's really going to be a powerful thing. Somebody asked me earlier, how do I sign up for these? Can I sign up for them in advance? We send out our email blasts. There's several that go out throughout the month for you to sign up. If you got this email about today, but you've never gotten any others, we typically send them out to our people on our administrator list only because it's the Music Administration Collaborative. But if you have an interest in administration or you have an interest in the topic, you are most certainly welcome to join us. So if you've got something on this last email and you'd like us to add you to the other one, just shoot us your email in the chat and we'll make sure we get you on that list. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is we want to emphasize the C in our organization, the Music Administration Collaborative. And we know it's not quite as easy through a chat, but it definitely is possible, as we're seeing. So I want you all to think about some really great, successful programs wherever you are. If you know somebody that's doing great work and you think it would be beneficial for the rest of the country to see it, get in touch with me about that, because we really want these first Wednesdays to be more about talking together about things. I'm going to put my email in the chat as well. And again, we certainly can hope you can join us again, same time, same place on March 3rd. Joe and Kelly, again, thank you so much. And this has been recorded and we'll have this available. And Joe and Kelly, if there are questions in the chat that we didn't quite get to, we can get those questions to you and get those answered afterwards. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
You guys have a great night.
It's great information.
Bye.
Bye.